Do you have a cup of tea or coffee? Do you have some snacks? Good, because this is going to be a bit longer video. Hi everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. I am sorry, I did not record much in March. No February wrap up, no March TBR, no nothing really. So this video is going to do all of this combined. Not really, just the February and the March wrap up in this video combined. And we're talking 15 books over those 2 months. 3 of which were DNFs, and a total of 4,249 pages over 2 months. That is actually pretty low for me. But that's fine. I had some good books, and that's all that matters. I'm going in liked order from DNF to meh to liked to loved. Spoiler alert, there was not really a meh book in there. I mean, the ones that I DNF'd technically, but anyway, I'm rambling already. See, there it goes. Let's get started. On my DNF pile is Malazan. I read a little bit more in Memories of Ice, so that is the second half of Memories of Ice. As you can see, I read quite a bit in this book, but we are in the middle of another battle, siege, I don't know, and I just don't care about these. I loved the beginning part of it, all the political intrigue with the brothers and digging a little bit more into that kind of stuff, but then that war happened again, or the battle started, or whatever. And I just didn't really care. So it has been then in this status, it has been sitting on my desk for some time now. And I just decided to soft DNF it. It's a soft DNF though. As I said, I want to read Malazan. I want to see where this is going because the overall story I'm very interested in. It's just these battle scenes that I don't really care about because they're just so long-winded. And, I do like a good fight scene, but if it drags out for 400 pages, there's limited interest in that on my end. Another one that you might not be happy about that I'm DNFing this, and this is a hard DNF, that is Mistborn. I'm halfway through Well of Ascension, these books are very floppy, by the way, so they're really hard to hold, which is book 2 in the Mistborn series. This is actually a buddy read with a colleague, and both of us have the same problem. So if you watched I believe it was my January wrap-up, where I talked about Mistborn, the first book, I already mentioned that I have a hard time with the main character. I don't like her. I just can't deal with all of her flip-flopping and whining and all that kind of stuff. There were a couple of other things that I didn't fully wipe with, but I was invested in the bigger picture story that they were alluding to. Well, of Ascension. I don't want to spoil anything, but that's one of the things that I actually want to know what is happening. Nearly halfway into book 2, and I still don't know what's going on with that. There's so much bloat in this book. It's unbelievable. I still don't like Vin for different reasons now. I don't like her boyfriend. He is a whiny idiot. I'm sorry. I cannot deal with this guy. And I do not know why they're a thing. Why they're a couple. I don't know. I don't get it. Like, they are doubting the whole relationship, both of them, all the time. And instead of just frickin' sitting down and talking about it, no, they are whining about it with everybody else. Anyway, tell me how you really feel, Josephine. I just can't anymore. And then nothing moves forward. It is so darn slow. It's just, I don't even know really what was happening in the first half book. And yeah, similar to Malazan, this has been sitting now since February. Like, I started this early February. So this has been sitting since mid-February, unread on my desk. And I will not pick it up at this point. I'm hard DNFing this. The last DNF'd for the last 2 months is The Coral Bones by E.J. Swift, which was a buddy read with Josh from Already Overbooked. I'm linking below the live between Josh and I, which was actually supposed to be a book discussion and then just ended up being a random book chat. Was super fun, by the way. Josh is amazing, so I'll go check it out. We thought both that this is more a sci-fi book based on the description and probably the association with the husband. I'm blanking on the author's name, but it's the guy who wrote The Silverblood Promise. It was more like, oh, it's probably more in that sci-fi fantasy realm. It's not. It's climate fiction. And both of us really didn't vibe with the writing style. As you can see, I didn't get very far, but I was just not interested. So this is a climate fiction. It's about the coral reef, and you get 3 time eras basically that deal with the coral reef and what happened across those. The past, 1700, 1800 something, Australia, today's time, and then dystopian future. And you have characters in each, and they tell their story and how it relates to the coral reef. And as you can imagine, climate fiction, right? It's like the coral reef is struggling, blah, blah, blah. Interesting topic, just not interested in writing about it in a fiction book. Expectation was different one. And then, yeah, it was, I don't know, it didn't hook me. All right, let's get into the liked category. The first two are the January and February Thrill, Chill, Kill book club picks. I read both of them in February, and that was Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh, is I believe the author's name. And when I was writing up my notes earlier today, I was like, oh, what actually did happen in the book? Why did I put it unliked? So it is forgettable, clearly, because I had to really look into, okay, what did I say about this book? I don't know anymore. But essentially, it's about two women who meet in a group, like grievance council group, and they both lost family members to some sort of a crime or a murder of some sort. And these murders haven't been convicted yet. So they make a pact and say, okay, I kill your murderer and you kill mine. So we can alibi out each other, essentially. And then there are a lot of twists and turns along the way. And it goes into some interesting directions. I remember there were some things where I was like, huh, okay. And then other things like, ooh, this is really interesting. It was fun. Discovering the twist was fun. But as I said, it was nothing that I will read again, or that I will, remember for a very long time, clearly. And then the second Thrill, Chill, Kill book club pick that I read in February, which was the February Pig, was Beautiful Ugly. This is about a writer who lost his wife and has since been in a writer's block, can't write. So his agent sends him off to a remote island. And there's some creepy things happening. It's a bit eerie. He sees his wife, but somehow it isn't. So he's a little bit confused as to what's happening. And I love this book. I thought this is for sure going to be a favorite till about roughly the 80% mark, when the reveals happened and everything fell apart. They were dumb. I mean, first of all, the main reveal that deals with the wife and him just didn't make any sense. When that was described, I was like, how is this even, like, no, this is not a thing. And then there's a little bit more towards the end. And at one point, Jake from the Bookish Drummer said something about this ending, and I was like, dude, you're so right. Then the whole book fell apart for me. That was so dumb. Anyway, if you want to hear spoiler thoughts from Jake, check out his review on that. He is ranting, and ranty Jake is a lot of fun. So go check that out. Next in the like category was Democracy in Retrograde. That's my one nonfiction book. That was a random book that I saw somewhere, and then I picked it up from the library and read it. This was published before the last election, and it was talking about the issues of society retreating more into their own little bubbles, and that has been happening over the last year, which is a huge problem because democracy only works if you have community involvement, right? Like if neighbors talk to each other and have events, and if you join community events, blah, blah, blah. That's only when democracy works. The beginning part was relatively interesting. It was a bit more like history type of lesson and just analyzing the current political situation in the US. And that was quite interesting. But I don't know, it got derailed at one point. So it is written by two Instagram influencers, and you can definitely feel that because there's so many like pop culture references that half of them I didn't even get because I'm not in that Taylor Swift area, whatever. And then it was really written more, I believe, for people in that realm. So I'm not the right audience fully. So it got derailed for me a little bit. I got the message overall. Nothing, common sense doesn't tell you already, but I read it. So it was interesting, but not great. The next one was the last book that I actually read in March, which is my very first Abby, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Jimenez book, The Friend Zone. I wanted to submit one more book for the Key Mark Readathon that happened in March because, as I said earlier, I didn't read much and I felt really bad, so I needed something quick and fast. And what better to read than romance for those types of things? So I read The Friend Zone. It was good, normal romance, nothing new, nothing exciting, two characters that go against the odds and get together, whatever. I didn't like the ending though. It was way too drawn out. Like the last 2 hours of that audiobook were not necessary. It was way too drawn out. Way too dramatized and exaggerated at the end. Like all of these things that were happening is like, why even? Like just let them get together. Don't kill off a bunch of people just so they can get together. And then they didn't forever. And then they did, but not really. And then something else happened. And it's like, oh my goodness, just end this book already. So the last, I don't know, 1 to 2 hours, I didn't even really listen anymore. It was just playing. It's like, for me, the story is done at this point. That was a little bit of a bummer. Let's get into the books that I actually really liked. My lived category. And I'm starting with book 3, Proud Pada, and book 4, Meddling Mages in the last Luminian series. I listened to those on audiobook. Awesome narrator, by the way. As you know, I'm not really big into audiobooks, and I tend to read like more easier books like romance on audio because, you know, I don't have to listen to every single word. I can zone out a little bit, which unfortunately happens a lot with audiobooks. But these I actually listened on audio and I loved it. So, Proud Pada, we are continuing to follow Lilla. We are exploring a new planet, a new fraction in that whole story as she is, you know, gathering support for her goddess that she is supporting. This is very heavy on exploring the magic, her own magic, and the magic system in general. So this was a really cool exploration on that. Book 3 is still very much a world-building book, but there is a lot more story and a lot more background on our main character, Lilla, and some side characters as well. So this was a lot of fun. But then book 4 happened, and I really enjoyed this one because this is a different perspective. It's not our main character Lilla, but it's her friend, the healer Glenna. So we are getting her perspective. And she went through a lot in book 1. And we barely hear anything in book 2 and 3 from her. Obviously, she is joining Lilla on her journey, right? So you see her on the side with all the other side characters. But you don't really get to know more about her and the aftermath of what happened. But that's what book 4 does. It really tells her story. It gets into her head. It gives more insights into what she is actually going through, what she has been through, what she's going through. And it's awesome. I like it. I like Glenna so much. She is an amazing character that is an amazing support for Lilla as well. It's an amazing friend. And it's just great to see that other perspective, I find. Another book that I read in February is Venomborn by Benjamin Averin, one of my favorite authors out there. This is his new series, which is also, I believe, called Venomborn. I'm not 100% sure. It doesn't matter what the series is called. He sent me an ebook as an ARC, and then after I read it, I had to buy the paperback immediately because it was fantastic. It was as fantastic as his first series. This is going to be a longer series, I believe 4 or 5 books. And he just came out with the first one, so I have to wait now a little bit for it to continue. I hate it. I'm not patient. This is about Venomborn, who are children of mothers who drank venom during their pregnancy. And they're just altered through that. Visually, they have like different eyes. If I remember correctly, they have a different colored eyes. But then also they have long forgotten abilities. And no one really knows about them. But then there are 2 Venomborn that are slowly rediscovering what is happening. And we're following both of them. They're both from very different worlds. And they have both a very different perspective on what it means to be a Venomborn. And it's very interesting to see these 2 come together with their very different life goals and then trying to work together. This has also very light lit RPG elements in it, which I found very interesting. So this still reads more like a traditional fantasy novel with some level up elements that don't really interrupt the story as much. I'm not sure I'm explaining this right, but I hope that I'm making sense. One thing that I want to note on Benjamin Averin's books, which personally for me I find very fascinating, in both his Rainfall saga and in this series, addiction, specifically alcoholism, is a very big topic. And I tend to stay away from books that deal with alcoholism or addiction in general because I just have seen too much in my life that, you know, I don't necessarily want to read about. So when I read Rainfall back then already, I was a little bit hesitant. And the same here, I was a little bit hesitant again when I saw what, you know, the main theme is with the Venomborn drinking venom, which is kind of an addiction in that sense. But Benjamin Averin handles this topic with so much grace that I can use it as some sort of, you know, working through some things myself. And it actually doesn't bother me as much as I thought it would. Or not bother is the wrong word, but it doesn't impact me as much as I thought it would. And Yeah, I'm very fascinated by that. It's a very much me thing, I believe. It has nothing to do with Benjamin Averin or how anyone else might experience this book, but I thought it was noteworthy that he handles that topic in general just very, very well. The next two are two John Marrs books. The other read-along that I'm part of at the Bookastronomer Discord, we are doing one John Marrs book every month. And in February, that was The One, which was our very first sci-fi book. And in March, it was The Vacation, which was the second thriller book that we read by John Marrs. And I love them both. I think I am a huge John Marrs fan now. The way he tells his story is he has a theme, and then he shows that theme through the lens of a lot of different characters. And it's actually not that hard to follow them. So in all three books that I've read by him, it was, well, the first one actually didn't have that many characters. It was very focused. But in The One and The Vacation, it was not really hard to keep these characters in line and follow them along. So The One is a sci-fi one. It is about scientists who have found a DNA string that matches you with one person in the entire world. They created a dating app, like some sort of dating app where you can send in your DNA, and then once you're the one has sent in their DNA too, you're being matched, you can get their information and get to meet them, all that kind of stuff. And we're like a little bit time into this situation already, so this has been going on for quite some time already. So you have a bunch of matched partners. Things like racism and homophobia and whatnot all went down because this transcends gender, race, religion, everything. Divorce rates have gone up. It's a very interesting concept. And that's already what I loved about The One, that he takes a concept like that and really thinks through how the world would work if this would be real. But the actual story is you follow these 8 people, and there are some very interesting characters in The One. For example, there's a serial killer who's matched with a police officer, and it makes for a very interesting storyline. But all the others are very interesting too. And they are all different people from all different life situations with all different backgrounds. And he reveals a little bit at a time. So you really slowly go through the story and discover more and more about these characters, about the situation. And then it really moves all towards that big ending that then comes together in a bunch of really cool twists and turns and excitement. And it's just really cool. I love the way he's telling the story in both The One and The Vacation, by the way. So that was The One. And then The Vacation is about a motel in LA, like a rundown old raggedy motel, and various people that are staying in the motel. Similar idea, again, you're following multiple different characters and their time in the motel, what brought them there, why they're here, what their life is all about. And again, it's so many different types of people that we are following that makes for a really interesting story. What is very interesting is it's very cinematic, as in, you literally cannot put the book down. He always gives you this little tidbit at the end of every chapter. He's like, okay, I'm reading one more chapter. And then they're really short too. So, okay, I can read these 2 more pages. Oh, now I have to read the next 2 pages. Now I have to read the next 2 pages. So they're incredibly fast paced that way and incredibly addictive. It is so cool. Okay, 3 more books that I've read. The next one is Shrouded Horrors, which is a horror short story collection by Casey Griffin. These are very short stories with kind of eerie, paranormal horror elements. They are set in somewhat relatable situations, some more so than others. And then how these horror elements can help the situation, it's a little bit hard to explain. But it's like everyday situations. So for example, there is the first story, a group of friends is in front of a pizza store, 1 hour line. It's one of those famous New York pizza places. That, you know, a lot of people go to and you always have a long line. And then there's a dude that tells them, hey, I have a back entrance. If you pay me an extra little fee, I get you to the pizza place now. I have friends working there and we can deal with that. And then, you know, something happens. And they are all a little bit similar like this. Again, some more, some others. Some deal with some trauma that happened to a person. Some deal with, you know, a person is in a shitty situation right now and how a horror element can help them out of that. Very cool, very creative. A lot of really cool creative stories in there. There were maybe 2 stories that I didn't fully vibe with, but the rest was a lot of fun. And definitely makes me excited for reading Casey Griffin's monster gunslinger kind of story. She has like a horror western series where book 2 just came out. I'm definitely now excited to read that because I also loved her writing style a lot. It's a very straightforward writing style, but she's really good in building kind of ambiance and setting the scene. It was very cool to observe that in these very short stories, and I am very curious now to see how she does that in like a full-blown novel or series in that sense. Because I knew I would go to WonderCon at the end of March. I wanted to make sure I read some of the books of the authors that I knew would be there, where I bought books before from, to know if I need to buy more books while I'm at WonderCon. And the first one was Megan Haskell's The Last Descendant, which is the first book in the Sun Year series. I might pronounce that wrong. Check out the WonderCon video that I did where she's pitching her series, and there she is pronouncing it how it's supposed to be pronounced. This is about Ray, who is a human living in the world of the High Elves, and human are not worth a lot there, but she worked really, really hard over the many years that she has been alive. They all live very long, even the humans in the High Elf world, and she's part of the messenger service. So she gets sent into the human realm to deliver a message, but instead of being able to do that, she's actually being attacked by vampires from the Shadow Realm. And because the High Elf court has like weird laws, just her being in that situation actually means she's going to die and has to be killed off because of that, even though it was not her fault or nothing. So she is thinking, so what should I do? Because I'm really loyal to that. I don't want to be killed, obviously. I don't want my parents, it's not really her parents, it's the people that took care of her. I don't want them to be hurt because of that. So instead of going back and just letting myself, being killed off, I will go into the Shadow Realm and figure out why this happened, because they clearly targeted me and I don't know why, and I'm not okay with that. So let me do that. Decisions, I don't know. It is what it is, but it is so much fun. First of all, Rai is amazing. I love her as a character. She has this mix of careful but kick-ass heroine and just being a fun character to follow along, a little bit naive at times. And she meets the coolest folks as well. There's a lot of snark, a lot of great humor in this series. It's a romantasy, if I haven't said that yet, if that wasn't clear already. So there's a little bit of that happening already in book 1. And then the coolest part, which makes it, I believe, different than other romantasy series, is she is accompanied by pixies. And they are extra snarky, first of all. They have their own mind, which is also a lot of fun. And they love to eat meat in very graphic detail. And when I saw that for the first time on the page, I had a short moment of like, alrighty, let's do this. So, yeah. Fun. I'm very excited to continue reading the series. It's a 4-book series with 1 novella in there, which is completed already. And if you want to know what I bought from her, I will have a WonderCon haul video where I will be showing off all the good stuff that I bought, my poor credit card. The other one that I wanted to check on was Matthew Wolfe. So this is a prequel novella of the Ronin Saga, and then he has 4 books out in it, and it's supposed to be a 7-book series in the actual main saga, but he has a bunch of like side novellas and whatnot going on. Anyway, this one is one of the first prequel novellas. This one in particular introduces the magic system, which, wow, I love this so much. That was so cool. We are following Ezra, who is a student in a magic school. He is struggling with his magical abilities. He is the worst in class. He's somehow not able to figure out how he can use his magic to do whatever it is he needs to do. And today is the big day of the test that decides what is going to happen to him. Yeah, that doesn't go over very well. He is cheating. He is about to be thrown out. But then something happens where he's like, oh my God, I need to figure shit out now because my best friend is in trouble. She passed with honors and is about to be, moved to the next level, whatever. And, but she's in trouble now. And he realizes something is off. So he follows her and they end up in a really cool kind of magic test that essentially introduces all the elements of the magic system. First of all, I liked Ezra as a character a lot. I really loved these detailed descriptions of how he uses the magic. I don't want to spoil anything. I believe you should really read it. And I'm especially fascinated. This story is 80 pages long? And it is crammed full of really cool tidbits of how the world works, and especially of how the magic system works. I obviously talked to the author. Also, he is also in the interview that I did there, so you can check out his pitch over there as well. But yeah, I'm super excited in continuing this series. So this reads really, really well. And if it continues in that realm, I'm going to be really excited to find a new cool series to read. Alrighty, that was my February and March. Thank you so much for sticking around and listening to my ramblings. I really tried to stay concise and short somehow. If you want to hear more about any of these books, let me know down in the comments which one, and then I'm doing a separate book review on those and dig a little bit deeper into the story and what I liked or didn't like about it. Happy to do that. I am trying to get back to my regular schedule now. And my regular videos, like every Tuesday and then every other Friday is usually when I post, and I'm trying to get back to that. And then lastly, I want to know, how was your February and March? What was your favorite book that you read in those 2 months? I know it feels like February is already forever ago. We're in April already. Thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to check out the WonderCon video that I was talking about, where all these amazing authors are pitching their books. And then if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you get notified when new videos are up. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Bye!